Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare
Krishna
Hare
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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपीश गोपीकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदानेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। बोलो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की जय।
Jai
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा तरुण।
Hare Krishna, everyone.
हरे कृष्णा रवि।
Hare Krishna, everybody.
तो अजय हरे कृष्णा।
Hare
हरे
Krishna.
कृष्णा रीना जी।
Hare Krishna, Uncle.
कृष्णा। All right. So, after 3 weeks of break, we are restarting. So, hopefully everyone had a relaxed time for 3 weeks. And then this is our new timings, 9:50 to 10:30. So, hopefully, it works out for everyone. So, we start करते हैं श्रीमद् भागवतम. So last में हम लोग our reading Canto 3. Yeah, like as we know there are 12 books. We are on Canto 3, book number 3, which is about the status quo, where Mahatma Vidur is hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, and currently Kapil Muni, who is none other than avatar of Lord Vishnu himself, is giving transcendental knowledge to Mother Devhuti. Yeah. So if you remember, Devhuti is mother of Kapil Muni, but Kapil Muni is none other than avatar of Lord Vishnu. And as you know, Devhuti, who is daughter of Shambhu Manu, got married to Karda Muni. Yeah, if you remember Karda Muni, and then Karda Muni, Lord Vishnu had appeared to Karda Muni and had told him that he himself will appear to them. And then as Kapil Muni, and Kapil Muni then will spread the Sankhya Gyan in the whole world. So that is that. And then Karda Muni, of course, took sannyas once Kapil Muni was born, and also asked Kapil Muni to give transcendental knowledge to Mother Devhuti. Yeah. So right now what we are reading is Kapil Muni imparting transcendental knowledge to Mother Devhuti. And as you know, there are 12 books in Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are how many shloks, if you remember? Total
18,000.
18,000 shloks, yeah. So there are
18,000.
Yeah. And 332 chapters, right? And as you know, we have just read only 2 books, and we read so much. Like just in those 2 books, we went through so much of knowledge, so much about this whole cosmic creation, so much about Bhishma Stuti, the Kunti Stuti, right? In Dwarika, like how Lord Krishna is prayed by the people in Dwarika and so on and so forth, right? So many stutis, and about Lord Krishna we already read, and about Lord Brahma's stuti. So right now we are reading Canto 3, the status quo. We completed 26 chapters and we are reading 27th chapter now. Yeah, 27th, which is about understanding material nature. So last chapter was about the fundamental principles of material nature. So if you remember, it was explained how the material nature has been created. So they talked about the pradhan and the prakriti. Yeah, and it talked about the 24 elements. So if you remember the 24 elements, the 5 panch tattva elements, yeah, which are, of course, I think we all know that. What are the 5 elements? Yeah, so we all know about Prithvi, Akash, Agni, Vayu,
Agni, Vayu and Jal.
Jal, yeah. So those are the 5 elements, and related to those, there were 5 Suksham elements. So those are called 5 Istur elements, and there are 5 Suksham elements, shuttle elements, which are related to the, like to sky, the sound, to air, Vayu is touch, sparsh, and then we have Agni, which is related to the form or the color, and then Jal, which is related to taste, and then we had Prithvi, which is related to smell. Yeah. So those 5 Suksham elements, and then related to them, we had 5 Gyanendriya, then we have 5 Karmendriya, and then the 4 internal elements, which are the Ahankar, Man and Buddhi, ego, intelligence, and mind,
Consciousness.
and the consciousness, right? And the consciousness. Those are the 24 elements. 24 elements then merged with time. Time is the external manifestation of Lord Krishna himself. All these 25 elements together present in material nature. And then all the souls, conditioned souls, which were in Mahat Tattva after the devastation, right, after the Pralaya, yeah, they all got agitated based on our karmas, and then we came to this world and we have taken different bodies based on the karmas. As we can see, there are 8.4 million species, and that's how the fundamental principles of material nature was being explained by none other than Kapil Muni, who is none other than Lord Vishnu, to Mata Dehuti. Yeah. And now they were the fundamental principles, but now we are understanding material nature. Like, what is this material nature is what is being explained by Kapil Muni. Yeah. So we'll continue to read that. And I think we were on Shlok 6th last. So we'll start with Shlok 6th and then read from here. Yeah. So Anilji.
जी हाँ यमाधिवीर्योगपथैरभ्यः संश्रुध्यान्वितः मयि भावेन सत्येन मत्कथा श्रवणेन च. One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. And as we know, Kapil Muni is saying that controlling process, like controlling the indriya, yeah. So, and that is the part of the yoga system, right? So that helps us in, that's a practice of controlling our all the indriyas, right? And that helps us in elevating to the platform of unalloyed devotional service. So at the end of the day, it is the devotional service. And how do we perform that? By chanting and hearing about me. Kapil Muni is saying me because he is none other than Lord himself. Yeah, says here, Satyena mat katha sravanen cha. So that's what Kapil Muni is saying. And you know, it has a nice purport. So we are going to read this. Tarun.
Yoga is practiced in 8 different stages: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Yama and Niyama mean practicing the controlling process by following strict regulations, and Asana refers to the sitting postures. These help raise one to the standard of faithfulness in devotional service. The practice of yoga by physical exercise is not the ultimate goal. The real end is to concentrate and to control the mind and train oneself to be situated in faithful devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Tarun. So because it's very difficult to control the mind, right? And all our indriyas. So that is why this is being recommended. There are 8 stages in yoga, right? Yam, niyam, asan, some of it we know, right? Sitting in a right posture, niyam, following the discipline, or pranayam, helps control the mind. So all those things, dhyan and samadhi and all that is essentially at the end of this whole yoga, so that we can actually focus on faithful devotional service is what is being mentioned here, right? Okay. Ajay?
Oh, sorry. Bhavana or bhav is a very important factor in the practice of yoga or in any spiritual process. Bhava is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Buddha Bhava Samnavya. One should be absorbed in the thought of love of Krishna. When one knows that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of everything and that everything emanates from him. Aham sarvasya prabhava. Then one understands the Vedanta aphorism Janmadi asya yatah, the original source of everything. And then he can become absorbed in bhava, or the preliminary stage of love of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So essentially what is being mentioned is that everything originates from Lord Shri Krishna. Yeah, it says Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha. So everything originates from him, and the goal of devotional service, right, is essentially getting absorbed in the thought of love of Krishna. So all the yoga systems, pranayam, asana, niyam, discipline, right, eating the sato, eating whatever is sato gun related, right? All those things essentially help us in controlling the mind and concentrating on faithful devotional service, which is essentially nothing but absorbing in the thought of love of Krishna. And that's what chanting also gives us. When we chant Hare Krishna, because the Krishna is absolute, the name and Lord Krishna is same, we get absorbed in the thought of love of Lord Shri Krishna, is what is being mentioned here. Adinaji?
Yeah. Rup Goswami explains very nicely in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu how this bhav or preliminary stage of love of God is achieved. He states that one first of all has to become faithful, Shraddhayanvitaha. Faith is attained by controlling the senses either by yoga practice, following the rules and regulations and practicing the sitting postures, or by engaging directly in Bhakti Yoga as recommended in the previous verse. Of the 9 different items of Bhakti Yoga, the first and foremost is to chant and hear about the Lord. That is also mentioned here. Mat Katha Travanena Cha. One may come to the standard of faithfulness by following the rules and regulations of the yoga system. And the same goal can be achieved simply by chanting and hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord. The word cha is significant. Bhakti Yoga is direct and the other process is indirect. But even if the indirect process is taken, there is no success unless one comes fully to the direct process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. Therefore, the word Satyen is used here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So I think this is a very important paragraph for us, right? Like for us, it's very difficult to follow all the niyam, all the discipline, right? And even to get into the high level of yoga practice, right? And so what it says here, which is very important, is that we can achieve the same faithful concentration either by following those 8 yoga practices which were mentioned in the previous paragraph, right? Or by engaging directly in the bhakti yoga. Yeah. So if we engage directly in bhakti yoga, that can also help us in achieving the faithful devotional service, because that's the ultimate goal. Even if we do the yoga system or bhakti yoga, our ultimate goal is to really engage in bhakti yoga. And bhakti yoga is about chanting and hearing about the Lord. Yeah, there are 9 ways we have read at many places, right? Savanam, Kirtanam, Mishmaranam. So even if we do that, and if you are not able to follow the yoga system in a strict manner, we can still achieve the same result. And even if we do the yoga, at the end of the day, we still have to come to this bhakti yoga anyways. So that's a direct method, is what is being referred here. It also says mat katha sravanancha, which is mentioned here in the shlok, right? Mai bhavena satyena mat katha sravanena cha. So that is the ultimate goal. So you can do the yoga path, right? Or cha means or katha sravanena cha bhakti yoga. So that is a very important part which is being mentioned here for us. That is why we start with chanting and we hear about the glories of the Lord, and we read Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's really, what is supposed to be done as a human life. And it says here, unless one is completely faithful, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engages himself in the process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, there is no possibility for liberation. So irrespective of all the yoga system, and right, the chanting, the devotional service is very important. And that is what is being mentioned here. Yeah. So read the next shlok, Ajay.
Sarvabhut samatven nirvairana pasangatah brahmacharyen maunen sarvadharmen baliyasa. In executing devotional service, one has to see every living entity equally, without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connection with anyone. One has to observe celibacy. He gave and execute his eternal activities, offering results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here Kapil Muni is essentially explaining that once you have in the devotion service, you start seeing Sarva Bhut Samatven, like everyone has a soul. So you start seeing everyone with the equal mindset. But it also explains that even though you do that, you spend most of the time with the people who are devoted, right? Who are absorbed in the devotional service, so that you continue to progress in the devotional service, is what is mentioned in this paragraph. Like, can read when you get a chance, right? And ultimately, whatever we do, the end is to offer our karmas to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like if you're doing it all for the Lord Sri Krishna, then the reactions don't impact us, like good or bad, whatever. And in that case, we go back to Godhead, is what is being described. Varun?
Yadrachaya palabdhena santushto mitabhun muniha viviktya sarana santo matra karuna atmavan. For his income, a devotee should be satisfied with what he earns without great difficulty. He should not eat more than what is necessary. He should live in a secluded place and always be thoughtful, peaceful, friendly, compassionate, and self-realized. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so I think they are just describing, like, if you want to really focus on Lord Sri Krishna, you need to develop all these qualities, right? Those will help in getting to the faithful devotional service, is what is being mentioned actually. Long purport, it says here, a devotee should always remain Atmavan, or situated in his spiritual position. He should not forget that his main concern is to make advancement in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, and he should not ignorantly identify himself with the body or the mind. Because when we start identifying ourselves with the body and mind, then our consciousness starts getting towards more of the materialistic issues, right? And so he says, but here the word Atmavan especially means that one should be self-possessed. He should always remain in the pure consciousness, that is, that he is spirit soul and not the material body or the mind. That will make him progress confidently in Krishna consciousness. Rinaji?
Sanubandhe च देहि अस्मिन् कुर्वन् सदाग्रहम् ज्ञानेन दृष्टत्वेन प्रकृतेः पुरुषस्य च. One's seeing power should be increased through knowledge of spirit and matter, and one should not unnecessarily identify himself with the body and thus become attracted by bodily relationships. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Kapil Muni again and again in Sankhya Gyan emphasizing that understand this material nature. Understand that you are not this body, just composed of those elements, right? Understand that you are the soul, right? Eternal soul is what is being described here. Anilji?
Yeah. The conditioned souls are eager to identify with the body and consider that the body is myself, and that anything in relationship with the body or positions of the body is mine. In Sanskrit, this is called aham mamata, and it is the root cause of all conditional life. A person should see things as the combination of matter and spirit. He should distinguish between the nature of matter and the nature of spirit. And this real identification should be with the spirit, not with matter. By this knowledge, one should avoid the false bodily concept of life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. निवृत्त बुद्ध्यवस्थानो दूरीभूतान्य दर्शन है उपलभ्य आत्मना आत्मनानाम चक्षुषेवार्कमात्मदृक्. So one should be situated in the transcendental position, beyond the stages of material consciousness, and should be aloof from all other conceptions of life. Thus, realizing freedom from false ego, one should see his own self just as he sees the sun in the sky. So, again, the same concept is being emphasized from by Kapil Muni, and actually it's nice to read this Brahma Samhita example. Ajay?
Sure. In the Brahm Samhita 5.38, it is stated that when one's eyes are smeared with love of Krishna, Premanjan Charita, he always sees Krishna outside and inside. This is confirmed here. One should be freed from all other vision, and in that way he is freed from the false egoistic identification and sees himself as the eternal servitor of the Lord. Chakshu Sevakam, as we see sun without a doubt, one who is fully developed in Krishna consciousness sees Krishna and his energy. By the vision, one becomes Atmadark or self-realized. When the false ego of identifying the body with the self is removed, actual vision of life is perceivable. The senses therefore also becomes purified. Real service of the Lord begins when the senses are purified. One does not have to stop the activities of the senses, but the false ego of identifying with the body has to be removed. Then the senses automatically becomes purified and with purified sense one can actually discharge devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Most importantly is one's eyes are smeared with love of Sri Krishna. Premanjan Charita. So that is what is part of the Brahma Samhita shlok which we had read. Yeah. Rinaji?
Muktilingam sadabhas samate pratipadyate sato bandhu masacchakshu sarvanusyatu yuta madvayam. A liberated soul realizes the absolute personality of Godhead, who is transcendental and who is manifest as a reflection even in the false ego. He is support of the material cause and he enters into everything. He is absolute, one without a second, and he is the eyes of illusory energy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Kapil Muni is again providing this transcendental knowledge to Mother Dehuti, right? He says he is the support of material cause, right? The Supreme Lord. And he enters into everything. So even everything material is actually created by or has come from Lord Sri Krishna is what is being mentioned. He says here, Sarva Anushutam, means he enters into everything and he is absolute without a second, like he's Advayam. So, right, and he is the eyes of the illusory energy. So even though we see illusory energy in Maya, everything has been coming from the absolute personality of Godhead. But the Godhead himself is transcendental, yeah, and away from all this. But he has entered into everything. So that's what is being explained by Kapil Muni here. So it's only 3 minutes actually. We are going to pause here, yeah, and we'll continue reading from here tomorrow. So, right, I think this is good time for all, yeah. So we'll try to,
Yes, good.
yeah, adhere to this. And also this last week, Holi was there. So happy Holi to everyone.
Happy Holi.
Yeah, happy Holi, everybody.
And that day was also Gaur Purnima, which is actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Jayanti on March 17th. It was. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than avatar of Lord Krishna and Radhe Rani himself. Like he's in the avatar of Radhe Rani. So that's why he's called, like he's a combination of, you know, he's a Radhe Rani avatar of Lord Sri Krishna himself, because Lord Krishna wanted to experience the devotion of Radhe Rani. So he appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this whole chanting of Maha Mantra and, you know, what we are reading Veda base is essentially coming down from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there was a 538th Jayanti which was celebrated on 17th March all over the world. What we are going to see right now this week is, you know, a glimpse from a temple in London. Okay, so we'll see that few minutes and then we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, and this is directly from how it was celebrated last week in temple, in London temple. So, Hare Krishna.